Hello and welcome to the Keep Right On podcast. I'm Alex Dicken, and as ever I'm joined by Brian Dick, and today we are going to be discussing back-to-back Blues wins. A big win for Blues at Stoke at the weekend, a 2-1 win sealed by goals from Jay Stansfield and Juninho Bacuna. A hard-fought victory it was in the end, Brian, but can't believe we're sat here talking about two Blues wins on the spin.
What is back-to-back win again? Yeah, I know. Obviously the cup win was a cup win, different side against different opponents. And the Stoke win, I'll start off being a negative ninny, shall I, again. The result was fantastic, probably better than I expected. Well, certainly better than I expected. Was it a brilliant performance? There were aspects of the performance that were good, but it's kind of our job not to get too carried away with results and ignore performances. So that I think Mowbray said himself afterwards anyway, didn't he, that there's still plenty of work to do. That was my takeaway. And I'm also massively relieved that on a day when QPR won and that Rotherham didn't end up winning in the end, did they? They drew, but on a day when other teams down there won, that Blues sort of kept that buffer, and have also really dragged other teams into it, if indeed they are in it now as well. And you can almost feel, you can certainly see lower half mid-table, just one game away now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's only, I think, 1 point separating Blues in 20th from Plymouth in 15th. So, and also the top half as well, I think, is only a few points away now. With a couple of good results, you get back up there. So it's a crazy league, but we know this about the Championship. I think, there's only ever really 10 points separating 20th and 6th. So, and that is the case this season. So, if Blues could stick a remarkable run of results together, then, maybe. But I think we'd all be happy at this point if Blues could just kind of get comfortably above the relegation zone and back into mid-table, where we all expected, I think, them to be in this season when it started.
So, am I a miserable misanthrope, or what do you think about the Stoke performance? Obviously, the result was brilliant. We both agree on that, and it was also brilliant just to see, those scenes at the away end again at the end of the match. That is what going to football is all about for me. That is. I get just thinking about it now. I'm getting tingles, and I went on social media on Sunday and looked at as much video as I possibly could, just to watch those scenes. But performance-wise, with your in a cold light of day, what did you make of it? How good was it?
I thought it was a really entertaining game. First half, first 65, 70 minutes before Stoke scored, I thought it was a very good Championship game. Stoke, I don't think anyone can say didn't have the lion's share of possession. They had many, many, many more shots. I think both teams had 5 on target, though. So, again, it comes back to that argument between shots and shots on target. And, is having 20-plus shots in a game a good thing? If you're only getting 5 on target, then it's probably not. It's just that most of them are coming from positions where you're probably not going to score from. Tony Mowbray, I think, has been quite critical of the way Stoke have played in years gone by, but he was, full of praise for them post-match, saying it's the best, a Stoke team he's seen playing in quite some time, and credited Stephen Schumacher for that. It was very nervy in the final 20 minutes once that goal went in. It's a poor goal for Blues to concede as well, wasn't it? Juninho Bacuna, he's got to clear it. He didn't need to play around in his own corner. And then obviously the cross was scuffed from Berger, and Thompson's just nipped in behind Dramé to score. But credit to Mowbray, he made defensive changes. He's not a defensively minded manager, but he recognised the situation Blues are in and that they were going to come under that onslaught. And Kevin Long came on at centre back and headed in, kicked things away as he does. Went to a back 5 for the final 15 minutes, and it worked. Blues got the result. They probably could have scored a couple more goals really if they'd have used the positions they found themselves in the first half, especially better. But I don't think anyone cared really how Blues got over the line as long as they did. And a third win on the way away from home all season. Probably the most enjoyable from a reporting perspective, because it was so kind of the atmosphere was electric. Stoke had a little ticket offer, I think, that increased the attendance from a home point of view, and obviously Blues always this season travelled in numbers. And as you mentioned before you queued me up there, Brian, the the rendition of "Keep Right On" at the end of the game was the best I've heard this season, and probably one of the most emotional I've heard this season. So it was really, really good to see.
Yeah, it was almost Houstonian, wasn't it? Just needed Tony Mowbray at the front there, beating his chest, conducting it, which I don't suppose we'll ever see. But yeah, it was fantastic. Also notable for, was it one of the most egregious dives I've seen in a long time in the build-up to the Stoke goal? Was it Leris that threw himself to the floor when Sunjic went near him? I'm not saying that it should the play should have been stopped and Blues awarded a free kick and Leris booked. Although I suppose that is the logical conclusion of why I'm pointing it out. But honestly, the gravitational problems that kid must have is just something else. It was just, I don't know, absolutely awful dive. But yeah, there we go. All's right in the end. Cody Drame won't want to see that back again, will he? Just didn't see Thompson. So yeah, it was a bad goal to give away. Something else that really struck me as well was certainly one goal that was outside the box. Obviously the Bacuna free kick, which was brilliant. Was Stansfield just inside the box when he scored? And then I'm thinking about JJ's goal. JJ's goal against Swansea. Blues are starting to score goals from outside the box, which is something. It's been an absolute bugbear of mine for years. They're just either they've not shot enough, or the quality's not been there enough. But those goals from outside the box are absolutely invaluable. So yeah, that was another thing that stood out for me.
Yeah, maybe that goes back to the point I was making earlier about shots versus shots on target, and that I think now managers do value shots and those possession statistics much more. So I suppose if you're having more shots, you're obviously going to score more goals. And but yeah, I'm not sure if Stansfield was outside the box. It was a very, very good finish.
Yeah.
JJ had one actually in the first half that he leathered, and it hit him. It was blocked, but that looked to be heading goalwards as well.
Sanderson's as well, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, Sanderson's was really well saved by the Stoke goalkeeper too. So yeah, it's obviously something that Mowbray's telling him to do. I think Rooney tried to tell him to that as well, kind of shoot on sight. So so yeah, it's good to see them having more shots. But yeah, crucially, more goals than Stoke.
Yeah, indeed, absolutely, and it was a Stoke team that was in form as well, wasn't it? So I probably should shut up and stop moaning about Blues' performance. But it was a Stoke team that was on form, and Blues went there and won. So yeah, they can do it on a very windy Saturday afternoon in Stoke.
Yeah. Moving on, Brian. I criticised Juninho Bacuna a little bit for his part in the Stoke goal. But his free kick was absolutely outrageous. And to be fair, when he stood over that ball, I was very confident that it was going to at least work the goalkeeper, because it was from that angle that he likes. He had one in the first half, which was from the other side, that he's not as effective from. But yeah, what a goal. I saw the replay shot from behind Bacuna when he struck it. And it's just absolutely inch perfect. No goalkeeper saving that. Speaking to Tony Mowbray about him afterwards, he was saying that he's mad as a hatter. It's just about tickling his tummy and kind of telling him he's brilliant and getting the best out of him. And I think that does sum up Bacuna, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, you and I have spoken about Bacuna a lot, and privately, and I think we're both a little bit frustrated in him when he does interviews, because he's not massively eloquent. He certainly doesn't really want to expand on any of his answers. He's a real introvert in his interviews, where he comes across as an introvert. And yet, just the way he plays football, you and I both know he's a really big personality, isn't he? There's a proper bouncy, excitable bloke in there, and it'd just be lovely to see him bring it out in interviews. What I loved of all the stuff the celebrations and stuff I watched on Sunday. Bacuna standing in front of the crowd, in front of the Blues fans with his arms out, and he milked it, didn't he, for about 10 seconds. You've got to have some stones to just stand there and just lap up that adoration. But I thought that was brilliant, and I am an unashamed Bacuna fan, and yes, he's absolutely infuriating. And I wish some of this he wouldn't do some of the stuff he does in the positions that he does it, and sometimes his final ball is maddening, isn't it? But I think when I watch professional sport, I like to watch people do stuff that didn't expect or suddenly couldn't dream of doing, which in my case is quite a lot. But Bacuna is a player that excites me, and he infuriates me as well. Yes, but moments like that, and there's a power league drag back or double drag back or a nutmeg or something, isn't there, in every one of his matches? And you just think, how has he done, or how has he created that angle? So a big Bacuna fan.
Yeah, it was a superb goal. Another player who really stood out to me at Stoke for different reasons, and who stood out for me in most of, I think, in probably 2 of Mowbray's 3 games, Koji Miyoshi. He's a player who's divided opinion a little bit at times this season, certainly divided managers. Johnny Eustace used him sparingly as a number 10, and then Wayne Rooney started him in some games, and then towards the end of his tenure didn't play him at all. Brian, firstly, give me your take on Koji's season so far.
I think if we're taking it from the point of view of what he was when he arrived, he obviously coming from Antwerp, was it? Off the back of a bad knee injury. If you'd have offered me 4 goals and 30 appearances, I'd have definitely taken that and said, yeah, that is a really good start in a new league. For somebody who's adapting physically was always going to be a question mark. Sometimes I would say, he could affect the games more, but 4 goals is not a bad return. So yeah, I know the recruitment staff were massively excited about getting Koji Miyoshi in the summer. They thought he was going to be the real wild card signing, and maybe he's not quite that. But I'm encouraged, I would say. What about you?
Yeah, I think he's been quite good. I really liked him as a 10 in those early weeks of the season, but speaking to Mowbray in the last week and a bit, he's pretty much pigeonholed him as a right winger now. And I know when I spoke to Koji over the summer for the first time, that's where he saw himself as a right winger coming in onto his left foot. And I mentioned it to you on this podcast, I think, previously, about the kind of similarities I saw between him and Patrick Roberts, who Mowbray had at Sunderland. And yeah, he's been so effective in the last couple of games. I think when you sit in front of a manager sometimes, and they kind of, you ask them a question, they make you see something that you didn't see. In that, I asked Mowbray about Koji Miyoshi before the Stoke game, and he spoke about his qualities, but also said how great he is defensively. And we don't associate Miyoshi with that at all, but he said how great he is at spotting passing lines and basically blocking passing lines. So he's almost a perfect defensive right winger, as well as someone who's very good going forward. And he said he's got the opportunity to make that spot his own. And he said that twice in the last 5 days. So he's clearly very high on him. It was interesting how even when Blues were under the cosh at Stoke, Miyoshi's probably the first player, a 5'6" winger, he's going to take off, but he didn't take him off. He left him on for the entire game. Could have stuck Oliver Burke out there and just used that kind of counter-attacking pace. So it shows how high he is on Miyoshi, and it's good to see because he's a good player. He's probably not so much by use, because Eustace found a role and a purpose for Miyoshi, but he was probably misused by Rooney a little bit in that he couldn't get the best out of him and couldn't find a way to make him thrive in his system. So it's good to see a manager who's very much high on him and trying to get the best out of him and rate his abilities.
Yeah, it's all about the system, isn't it, with someone like Miyoshi, and getting him the ball in the positions where he can excel. And the Rooney system just didn't function, did it? And it wasn't just Miyoshi that's lost his way because of that. Lots of players did. And you're right. He did look good in the Eustace system. I think he's turning out to be quite a shrewd signing, and I'm really intrigued to see what Mowbray does with him. I know he's going to play him on the right wing, coming on his left foot, but I think he'll be playing at the top end of a Mowbray team that has a really stable platform and will be better at getting the ball to him in good positions as well. So yeah, I could quite easily see Miyoshi getting another 3 or 4. If he stays fit towards the end of the season. So yeah, it's been decent. Is he on a 3-year contract?
2 years, and I'm told there's an option to extend that as well. So 2 plus 1. So effectively a 3 if it goes well.
And as I said, coming in off an ACL into a new league for the first time with his physical sort of dimensions, it's decent so far, isn't it?
Yeah, very good. I mean, he's got 4 goals, 4 assists as well. So like you say, Brian, if he gets, 15 goal contributions all in this season. That's very good, isn't it? Very good first season in England. One of the players who is supposed to be the supply line for players like Miyoshi, Sariki Dembele, Janini Abakuna and Jay Stansfield is Andre Dazelle, who joined on loan from Queen's Park Rangers until the end of the season before the Stoke game. Made his debut. It probably wasn't the debut he wanted, in that he didn't come on and spray the passes about that he's expected. He was more flying into crunching challenges. But what do you make of that signing, Brian? You think it's one where there's obviously going to be potential for it to become a permanent deal later down the line, given how much Mowbray clearly rates him?
Yeah, I was just trying to look at his contract situation. Is he up this summer, but with an option from QPR?
Yeah, there is an option to extend it.
Right. Okay. I think it's good. He certainly wasn't a name that I was looking across the Championship and thought, yes, we've definitely got to get him into the team. But if Mowbray's been following him for 5 years, he said, or something like that, didn't he? Trying to sign him all over the place. Without outsourcing my opinions, if he's good enough for Mowbray, I'll probably go, I'll buy that, and we'll give him a go. Good age. Always struck me, what little I knew of him was that he's someone who, always spoken about with a prodigious amount of talent, and maybe not quite found the platform to fulfill that talent yet. But yeah, as you say, it was really difficult to tell, wasn't it? Did he actually touch the ball very often at Stoke?
He got a few, I think. He got a few, just little sideways passes. Right. But like you say, I think there were 2 big tackles in there, weren't there, that were especially one on, was it Mai, Stoke striker, I think, that fans appreciated. But yeah, speaking to Mowbray about him, he's kind of one that he sees as the deeper playmakers who's going to come in and take the ball from the centre backs and get it further forward to the players like Miyoshi, Dembele, Stansfield. So yeah, it's an interesting one, because if you look at it on the face of it, and his numbers and things, as we always look for, because that's the only kind of thing we've got to judge that's right in front of our noses. And they're not exceptional numbers. He doesn't score a lot of goals from midfield. His pass completion rate or whatever this season hasn't been absolutely outstanding, but I suppose the type of passes that he'll make, he'll make forward passes, and that's the key thing that Mowbray wants. He wants his players to go forward quickly and be an attacking, front-footed team. And he obviously sees someone like Gazelle coming in, who could be someone who could immediately impact things and immediately get Birmingham City moving in that direction. Yeah,
and if we sat here last week, didn't we, and commented about the way Christian Bielik was playing that kind of role and taking too long on the ball, too many touches, and then not passing forward. If Dazelle can do that, and be half turned when he receives the ball with an idea of where it's going, then absolutely he fits into the machine, doesn't he?
Yeah, definitely. Another one that a lot of fans were talking about on Saturday night was Jay Stansfield. Mowbray dropped a little nugget in his post-match press conference when talking about that Fulham loan recall that he's obviously still an ongoing thing. That if there's a number further down the line, he'd hope that Blues could potentially make that happen, because Stansfield loves it here so much. It's probably not the answer we were expecting. When we were sitting there talking about Jay Stansfield, but I mean, imagine if they could, pull that one off further down the line.
Yeah, I think what we've come to expect is that anyone who can walk and chew gum at the same time, in terms of being a striker, Blues tend to cling onto them like a drowning man with a piece of driftwood, don't they? But with even saying the phrase Jay Stansfield and permanent in the same sentence, it's a lot of fun. Mowbray's talking about, if there's a number, it's going to be a big number, isn't it? It's going to be a very big number, and I think you're probably looking at 10 million, something like that.
I think for Blues, you're definitely looking at record transfer territory.
Oh, easily, yeah. So Blues is six and a bit, so way over, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And if Fulham are watching him score, what's he got, 9 so far this season?
9,
watching him score all manner of goals in the Championship, they're going to have a look at him before they sell him, aren't they? Really, I'd be very surprised if they cash in on him in the summer, and if they do cash in on him in the summer, and there's going to be plenty of sharks swimming around that pool, isn't there?
Yeah. But let us dream, Brian.
Okay, all right, yeah. Somebody likened him to Forsell, didn't they, on social media? And I can see that. Obviously, you know, he's got sort of the fair haired looks that Forsell had, but I think he kind of, I know what you mean with the mobility and the finishing, and the sort of just that really clinical edge. You know, once he worked the first touch, by the way, from Miyoshi's pass, the first touch on Saturday. I don't know why people aren't speaking about that more, because that was just a heavenly first touch. The ball was slightly under his feet, wasn't it? And he with one really deft touch, he gets it in front of him, and he's running in on goal. And as soon as the ball's in front of him and he's got the goal in his sights, you expect him to score those goals, like the one against Plymouth, don't you? You know, it's a surprise when he misses now, isn't it?
Yeah, he absolutely leathered it well, didn't he? Superb finish. He's done that probably 3 or 4 times this season, where he's just been in front of goal and absolutely smashed it. You mentioned the Plymouth one as well, which is obviously his first goal, but he scores all types, doesn't he? I mean, the finish against Millwall, which is across the goalkeeper, the one-on-one against Preston, where he's gone near post. He's just a brilliant finisher against Southampton, where he's whipped one into the far corner. A superb player who, to be fair, in my opinion, Mowbray in 3 matches has made him a little bit better. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and you know, we can talk about whether he's a striker or not a striker. Mowbray doesn't quite play him as an out and out, albeit he's the furthest most forward. But yeah, just a really good loan. So, you know, as good a loan signing as has been for some time for Blues.
Yeah. On the subject of transfers, obviously get a lot of questions each week, so we're going to try and round up some of the names that are floating around. Sam Gallagher, former Blues striker, has been linked with the club. He's obviously at Blackburn Rovers now, and his future's up in the air there. I think he's been linked with Ipswich Town as well. Brian, just give us your take on that one.
I got told no on that one yesterday, so I'm going to trust that and say that's not happening. It always struck me slightly odd, not least from the fact that if Gallagher didn't have a great loan spell when he first came to Blues, albeit that was in the chaotic time that was Steve Cottrell's tenure. But since then, he seems to have had a bit of axe to grind with Blues fans. You know, inevitably he'd score against Blues on the last day of the season for Blackburn, and then he'd go and celebrate in front of the Blues fans with cupped ears and or, you know, fingers to his lips or something like that. So just that struck me as maybe someone saying, "Oh, Mowbray's had success with Gallagher at a previous club. Let's put 2 and 2 together and stick him at Birmingham City." But no, I don't expect that one. He has been linked with Ipswich, hasn't he? As well. Now, if Ipswich want to have Gallagher and let Blues keep Stansfield, that's probably fine for me.
Yeah, and another striker who's been linked with Blues is Notts County's Macaulay Longstaff. He scored a hell of a lot of goals, 20 and 27 in League Two this season, 42 and 47 in the National League last year, and they got promoted. Again, like you, I was told that this one's a non-starter as well. So yeah, he's not somebody apparently at the moment who's on Blues' radar. One who we believe is Alex Pritchard, the Sunderland number 10 winger, forward, one of those players that Tony Mowbray really likes. He obviously had him there at Sunderland for last season, played him quite a lot, got a good return numbers-wise out of him. A very good player at Championship level, and we're told that he's on a long list of targets of players that Blues would be interested in the summer potentially because he's a free agent.
Yeah, interesting one for me. I'd had rather lazily had this preconception of Pritchard as someone who was a little bit flaky with fitness issues, you know, who was probably flashed one in every 5 games. Looking at it more closely now, he's played 111 games in two and a bit seasons at Sunderland. So I think we can tick off the fitness issues. He's clearly, you know, playing with a good degree of consistency, and as you say, his goals return has been good. He's 30. He's up at the end of the season. The talk is that potentially Sunderland won't offer him another contract, but it seems that they're playing hardball as well a little bit about Pritchard. Don't necessarily want to send him to Blues. 30-year-old free signings. We've kind of been there and done that over several seasons, and I sit back and remember something Craig Gardner said in an open house, which was when we're done paying for expensive 30-somethings as free signings, unless they can add some value. Now Pritchard, for 2 years on the right deal in the summer, might maybe something you'll look at, particularly if Mowbray feels that he's someone he can get a tune out of, as he clearly can and did at Sunderland, didn't he?
Yeah, definitely did. I think he got 4 goals, 7 assists last season. Again, they're decent numbers, aren't they? I think he started maybe 30 in the game, so he didn't play all the games, but he was a big pick for Mowbray a lot of the time up front with the likes of Jack Clark, Patrick Roberts, Diallo, Joe Gelhardt. I think they had a loan from Leeds as well. So had a lot of those kind of small, diminutive attackers, attacking types. And Pritchard was one of them. So I think Mowbray actually spoke about Sunderland at the start of the season, and obviously the huge quality they had in terms of young players and the sheer number of them. But he did mention that he might like a bit more experience, and obviously, Blues have got young players. They've got players who are, early 20s as well. You are going to need experienced players to go in amongst them, aren't you? Players who've been there in the Championship and done it before. And Pritchard, having done well at this level for Norwich, got a big move to Huddersfield as well. Played at this level, got to the playoffs of Sunderland. He's a player who does tick that box, the experience box as a player who's done well. So yeah. Like you said earlier, if Mowbray wants him, then I can get on board, I think.
In Tony we trust, absolutely. Listen, I think the prospect of Pritchard pulling strings for players like Dembele and Stansfield and Miyoshi and Keshi Anderson, maybe even his old Brentford teammate, Scott Hogan as well, you can see that, can't you, to be fair? Just looking at the positions he's played this season, there's been 3 sort of as a quite advanced number 9, 3 starts in the centre and mid, a couple of starts in the as a sort of an 8/10 attacking central midfielder. He's played off the right a couple of times as well. So if you're looking for flexibility and technical ability, then I suppose he does tick some boxes. I wonder if Sunderland, as I say, Sunderland have much interest in sending someone who's playing on loan to Blues. I'm not convinced that they do, but a nice technical player for Blues to be looking at.
Feels like one that's probably got more legs in the summer for me than now.
Maybe.
Moving on, there's obviously a lot of big earners. We've spoken about this at length on previous podcasts. Players the Blues will potentially be able to release in the summer when their contracts expire, but probably difficult to get rid of them now. I think we're going to come on to them in a bit, so I don't want to kill it all in one go. I do want to talk a little bit about the loan situation. Blues have obviously now got 5 loanees. The rule, Brian, as far as I'm aware, is that you can name 5 loanees in the squad, can't you? It's when you've got more that you've got to kind of start leaving players out here and there. Yeah,
5 in a match day squad, that's right. So, it would seem logical now that if Blues get any more in, they'll potentially have to get one out, because otherwise you're paying one of your loanees to be on the bench, aren't you? And then the clubs doing the loaning get a little bit sensitive around that as well. They want minutes for their players. So that you're right. 5 per match day squad, and Blues have 5 now. They are obviously Drame, Emmanuel Ivu, Stansfield, Oliver Burke, and Andre Dazelle. We're not massive fans of Burke or Ivu, are we? But I suppose if they go out, then they will need replacing. That's where we are with the loans.
On to the takes. We've got a couple of good takes this week. Firstly, from Mark, Bielik looks much better at centre-back. Lucky to win at the weekend, but hopefully the confidence belief is starting to come back. The way we hung on suggests they're still a bit low, but the win will do them the world of good. On Bielik first, Brian, it was a quite a decent performance considering, playing his first couple of games at centre-back in, I think, 3 years, he told me after the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy with Bielik at centre-back as long as Blues have got the ball. That it's when they haven't got the ball and they've got runners in behind, or there's a header to be won or a block to be made in the 6-yard box. Then I start to wonder: is Bielik assertive enough? Is he that dominant type of personality, or physically strong enough to throw himself in front of a ball or stick his head where there's a boot or something like that? That said, he's played football having had his front teeth kicked out a couple of days earlier, and I never have. So possibly I shouldn't question me on that point. But yeah, it's been good. It's been okay, hasn't it? You're certainly not dismissing it out of hand after 2 games, are you?
Yeah, aside from that mistake against Hull, which led to their goal, I think he's actually been quite good. I thought he stepped onto the ball really well in the second half against Hull, carried that into the game at Stoke. We know what Bielik is. Aerially he's very strong, probably the best header of a ball in the Blues team, in my opinion, when Kevin Long's not on the field.
I was going to say Kevin Long, sure, yeah. or Dukey.
Yeah, potentially. But again, 2 players who aren't on the field that often are at the moment.
That's fair, yeah.
Bielik, I think it helps him when he plays at centre-back in that on the ball, we know Mowbray wasn't particularly pleased with kind of how long he was taking to get his head up when he was in midfield and how long he was, taking to pass forwards, and often he was having to go backwards. So when he's at the back and he's got all the play in front of him, he can see these options early. And a lot of the time at the back, he's not under a great deal of pressure in possession, is he? Whereas in midfield, you've got a man or normally 2 men running straight at you, trying to press you. There are a couple of instances against Stoke where I was actually really impressed. One of which was he ran onto a ball on the back line on the right side, and instead of just playing the ball across to Cody Drame, he split 2 Stoke players who were pressing him and found Jordan James in midfield and allowed him to turn straight away and play forwards. I thought that was really good, and not the sort of pass that you see many centre-backs make. Probably shows the benefit of having a central midfield player playing at centre-back. I thought he worked quite well at Stoke, to be honest. I don't think he was found wanting. So, yeah, I think it's something we're going to see more going forward. We spoke about Mowbray when he was at Sunderland finding auxiliary centre-backs. And Bielik, I think he's probably found one again in that he can play, between Dion Sanderson and Lee Buchanan. And he's probably got that security outside of him in terms of they're both quite quick players and solid defensively. So it just suits him, I think, being able to sit in there and dictate the play from the back.
Yeah. As I said, I've not seen anything in the last couple of games that scares me rigid, and you'd say not for me. So, yeah. Chris Woods offered us this take. The cup games have aligned perfectly for Tony Mowbray. Getting to make 7 changes at home to Hull's second team allowed the chance to rest, rotate, and also chase a win with the subs to lift spirits. Now gets a free hit away at the top of the league, a different kind of test to see how the team can cope at Leicester. So, are you on board with that? Is Leicester pretty much a free hit?
Yeah, Tony Mowbray said that himself actually after the Stoke game. He said it's almost shot to nothing. Yeah. They'll obviously go there and try and win, probably expecting a similar game to Stoke, really, and they're going to have, less possession, less shots. So yeah, it's one of them, isn't it? I think they can go there and try and spring a surprise. I'm interested in team selection because he obviously went much weaker in the last round against Hull. But do you go a little bit stronger because you haven't got a game for another week? And I mean, don't get me wrong, Blues aren't going to win the FA Cup, but it'd be nice to get to the 5th round and get a decent tie at St Andrews.
I wonder if Wigan fans were saying that when they were in the 4th round all those years ago.
Well, to be fair, they were a Premier League club at the time, weren't they?
Do they go? I think while there are combinations being worked on, I think they probably should go strong. Maybe Etheridge in goal for Ruddy. You wouldn't be risking a comeback for Ethan Laird or anyone like that, would you? You might want to get some minutes into Tyler Roberts. But I think in terms of the shape of the team, the the shape of the team will probably remain the same. I wouldn't fancy him, sticking out an experimental side.
No.
Just trying to think what Leicester did in the previous round. They did play some of their younger players, so they didn't go strong. They didn't go strong. But obviously, some of their fringe players can probably still be internationals virtually. So, I'd like Blues to put out a decent, strong side and have a go for it. With mostly first team players.
Yeah, no, it would be good to see. Moving on to the questions. One specifically for you here, Brian. Liam Pierce says, where would Blues have been sat in the table if they hadn't brought in Wayne Rooney?
Why is that specifically for me?
Just think you'd give a better answer than I would.
Okay. Right, okay. Well, I mean, I have done a little bit of maths. So if we take the Rooney games out of it, so we've got 11 games with Eustace and 2 league games with Mowbray. Eustace had 18 points. Mowbray's got 4, so that's 22. So that's 22 points from 13 games. Breaks down about 1.69 per game. So let's say 1.7 points per game. If you times that by 28, I'm getting there, I promise, which is what most teams have played now. That puts Blues on 47 points and in 5th place, which is where they were when John Eustace won his last game. So I don't know. That's probably a kind of a simplistic answer, Liam, but just in the spirit of the question, if Blues had sacked John Eustace and appointed Tony Mowbray, I think I'd have gone, yeah, that's really harsh, but okay. If sacking Eustace and going to Rooney and going to Mowbray, you go, oh, we all know what we felt about that. That didn't work. Had Blues stayed with John Eustace, I think there's a chance he'd have kept them in a similar position as well, if I'm honest. He's not got the experience as a manager of Mowbray, but I understood what he was trying to do, and I liked the identity of the team, and you could see, they were, if nothing else, they were competitive, weren't they? So, yeah, I think they'd be about where Eustace had them. What about you?
No, I mean, I love the working out there, Brian. I'm just looking at. So, I mean, I think they'd probably have tailed off a little bit under Eustace still. I think they'd probably have, places like Middlesbrough, Southampton, Sunderland, they're hard games, aren't they? I think they'd have lost a few. The
run of games that Rooney came into were hard, weren't they?
Yeah. But, you look at games like Sheffield Wednesday, they'd probably have won that under Eustace. Blackburn away, I think they'd probably have been a bit more sensible there and maybe got something more, because I don't think Blackburn are particularly a good team. Rotherham, Coventry away, they'd probably have competed better. Because Coventry weren't in great nick at the time, where I think they were just kind of starting to pick up a little bit, and they're flying again now. But Plymouth away, they'd definitely have held on to a 3-1 lead under Eustace, in my opinion. So I don't know. If Eustace or Mowbray had been in charge until now, God knows it. Take Rooney out of the equation, I'm sure Blues would be in a better position, but I'm not sure they'd be 5th or 6th. They might be about 10th.
I've done the stats. The answer is 5th, Alex. You don't know.
Right, let's end that one there. Thanks for the question, Liam. Moving on to Rob Loveridge. Thoughts on Keshi Anderson's role? Tony Mowbray seems to like Bakuna, and he's delivering goals and assists. With Roberts being a preferred option from the bench, Keshi isn't getting much of a look in. On Bakuna's goals and assists, that's 7 goals, 5 assists now. That is a very impressive return. I don't think any Blues players got more goal contributions in all competitions than that. I think Stansfield's got 11. Very good return. Brian, Keshi Anderson, he's a player we both, rated quite highly at the start of the season, but, he's not had a look in, has he, since Mowbray's come in?
No, I liked him when he was playing under Eustace. I like the fact he won a contract. He came on trial effectively and had a brilliant pre-season and won a contract. And what I liked about him was he always struck me as as a really intelligent player. He knew what he was going to do. I've said this a lot before about him. He knew what he was going to do before he received the ball, and you know, he always looked dangerous. What I would say is he probably should have had 3 or 4 goals, but in that run of games he was playing. I could actually see Akeshi Anderson thriving under Mowbray. You know, being found in the right kind of positions. I'd be surprised if he doesn't get a few games under Tony Mowbray. You?
I think he'll get a chance. I mean, the problem he's got now is that Bakuna's started to take his chance a little bit. And I think Bakuna's the one whose position was up for grabs. I think Stansfield, Dembele and Miyoshi are pretty much set in stone under Mowbray. So Bakuna's the one I think was probably most at risk. And Keshi Anderson would be a good 10, a good second striker. I think he can play that position quite well. Also, he's got another problem Keshi Anderson's got is, as Rob mentioned, is that Tyler Roberts is getting a very good looking now. Tyler Roberts is looking quite strong as well. George Hall potentially coming back in the next month or so. I think Mowbray is going to really like working with him. So there are options. You know, if Blues could potentially sign another forward player, you know, before the end of the transfer window, and there's going to be another option there. So Anderson's going to have a lot of competition for a place in Mowbray's team, I think. Whereas under Rooney previously, if he was playing a 4-3-3, I actually think Anderson would be one of the best fits for a number 8 midfield position. But Mowbray's not playing that way. He's got 2 number 6s, and I think they're going to be probably set in stone in a couple of weeks. I think it'll be Dazelle and Jordan James, if provided Jordan James is still here. Yeah,
and Mowbray's going to. Every manager wants players that you can rely on not to be injured, and obviously, Anderson took a step back with his injury, didn't he? That set him back, and then he had a very disrupted season last season as well. So maybe that will count against him, unfortunately. But I do think he's a good player.
And me. Adam James, this is a good question. Do you think Mowbray has a settled start 11 now? What positions players are still up for debate? Do you want to run through it, Brian?
No, let's run through it. So goalkeeper's not up for debate, is it?
No, it's definitely not. Centre backs, right back. If we go first with right back, Cody Drummond, he's going to have a hell of a battle with Ethan Laird once he's fit. I think that's a good one. Blues, in my opinion, have got 3 absolutely outstanding fullbacks, and one in Manny Langella is still learning that trade. But again, very talented player. So there's going to be a battle for the right back and left back berths in a Tony Mowbray back 4. Laird for me,
a battle for the left back berth.
Well, yeah, because I think Drummond's proved he can play at left back as well. If Buchanan's form dips a little bit, and Mowbray did make a comment about not about Buchanan but about his style of football. He said the other week about when he sees the left back get the ball, he wants him to run into the 50 yards of space rather than turn and play back. And Buchanan's not the most attacking minded left back in the world, is he? So if Cody Drummond can't play at right back, then he's at least got the bonus of being able to play at left back and providing some competition there. But yeah, Laird for me, I think he could be a game changer. I mentioned before about how much I loved watching Niall Huggins when Tony Mowbray was Sunderland manager, and I think Laird could do something similar. Probably coming into midfield a little bit on occasions, and also giving that high right wide option. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Laird. I think Laird will probably edge it eventually if he stays fit, and that is the big if.
So we got then you're onto the centre backs. Sanderson seems set in stone, doesn't he? Is Bielik we talked about him a little bit? Is he potentially setting himself into stone? He might be, mightn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
Particularly if Mowbray wants his centre backs playing forward, and then you come into midfield. Which of those roles would you say? Because there's plenty of options in midfield.
Yeah, as I just mentioned, I think in a few weeks, if Jordan James is still here at the end of the window, I think it'll be him and Gazelle in midfield. I think they're probably the 2 best ball players. That's what Mowbray wants. I think there'll still be the occasional match where Sunjic plays, where Sunjic is needed, because Blues are going to have less of the ball and need someone running around kicking people. But I think Dazelle and James, for their quality and possession, in James's case, the goals he can offer going forward as well, I think they're probably going to edge it in midfield. I think that's the way Mowbray wants his midfielders to play. And yeah, I reckon those two will be a fixture in the team when it gets going.
And you've already said that Stansfield, Miyoshi and Dembele kind of write themselves in straight off, don't you? Which leaves one more space in attack, which looks like Bakuna's got a stranglehold on that at the moment, as long as he's having his tummy tickled.
yeah. Bakuna though, when players return, when George Hall returns, Keshi Anderson gets fitter with more minutes. Tyler Roberts is playing well off the bench. There's a hell of a competition for that second place next to Stansfield. Lots of options there. Bakuna, we know what he is. We spoke about him earlier. We know how he plays. He's infuriating at times. I get angry thinking about watching him sometimes for the things he does. But he is an absolute world beater as well on his day. So he's got it. He's got so much in his locker that managers want to work with him. And Mowbray clearly wants to work with him and wants to persist and get the best out of him. I really hope that Bakuna can find some consistency. I say that having just said that he has got more goal contributions than any other Blues player this season. So he's obviously doing something right, given that he plays a lot of his football deep midfield as well.
He's not consistent in the same minute, though, is he? You know, he's inconsistent, like literally in the same passage of play.
Yeah.
So yeah. To answer Adam's question, we're probably verging on 8, maybe 9 players being set in stone now.
Yeah, I think Bakuna's there at the moment, isn't he? Just the right back position's the one, I think. Yeah.
Brings us on to Tony Hawes's question. Are there any keepers that are being suggested for the summer? I've not heard any keepers' names yet. Have you?
No, I haven't. There was that young lad who plays. I've forgotten his name. He plays for Brighton. He's on loan at Oxford. Now he's gone to Sheffield Wednesday on loan for the second half of the season. He was linked with Blues, wasn't he, as a ball-playing goalkeeper. Only very young, 19. But no, apart from that, I've not seen any goalkeepers linked and I've not heard any names. My understanding was that Blues had kind of persist with the goalkeepers they had till the summer and address the situation then when both John Ruddy and Neil Etheridge are out of contract. If someone came in for Etheridge and offered Blues an escape from his contract in the final 10 days of this window or so, I suspect they'd take it, but I'm not sure that's going to happen.
Yeah, indeed. Which brings, and other part of Tony's question is, what are your thoughts on any of the players out of the contract come the summer, possibly offered a new deal at lesser terms, of course, lesser terms being absolutely the key part of that. Tony, you've kind of preempted an addition that Alex and I were an episode that we were going to do regarding the 9 out of contract players. So there's Scott Hogan, Lucas Djukovic, Ivan Sunic, Neil Etheridge, Gary Gardner, Mark Roberts, Kevin Long with an option, Keshi Anderson with an option, and John Ruddy. Has Mark Roberts got an option as well?
I think there is one on that, as well.
Yeah. So just pick one of those names, Alex, and give me a yay or a nay or any observations about any one of those 9 names.
I would be looking to keep John Ruddy. He's the one I'd go with out of those. And there's a case for a few of them, but Ruddy for me, he's played every league game this season. I think he's actually... I think he's done okay. There were moments under Rooney where he played poorly. I think he'll accept that he made some mistakes. I think back to Blackburn Rovers, I thought he was quite poor in that game. And there were a few others against Rotherham. He was fairly roping, somehow managed to keep a clean sheet. Had a lot of problems playing out from the back the way Rooney wanted. He's not had any issues under Mowbray, and Blues have still played out the back sometimes. The pass to Cody Drame in the build-up to Stansfield's goal against Stoke was really good as well, showed his vision. I think Ruddy's a solid goalkeeper at this level. If you can get him on a reasonable contract, which I presume he's on because he arrived only in 2021, then I'd be looking to keep him, whether it's as first-choice goalkeeper or as second-choice goalkeeper or as one of 2 goalkeepers who compete for the number 1 spot. I'd be looking to keep him because also he's an excellent personality and character around a dressing room as well.
The one name I'd pick out from now, as I said, we'll discuss all the others at length, probably after the transfer window, but Kevin Long with an option, I'd be looking to keep Kevin Long as well. He's lightly raced, spent many seasons out of the Burnley team, not playing a lot of football. And whilst Mowbray's not starting him, he recognises a horse for a particular course, doesn't he? You know, when the ball's coming into the box and it's there to be headed away. I think Kevin Long's still, you know, still something to offer Blues in the right situation. So yeah, that's where I'd go with that one.
Yeah, to be fair, I think Long's worth a shout as well. But yeah, without wanting to go on to that later podcast we've got planned in any more depth, I think we can cut it there, Brian. You go Long, I'll go Ruddy. Yeah,
indeed, which brings the curtain down on today's episode. Thanks everyone for listening. Remember, please subscribe to whatever your chosen platform is, YouTube or Spotify, and you won't miss any of our future episodes. It's a keep right on from me and a keep right on from him. Thanks a lot.